Lagos, it is that time. 16 minutes gone past 5. You tune into Personal Finance today. And today's a Wednesday, the 9th day in July 2025. Good to be alive, as always. And talking about personal finance, well, it is all about how you can make sense of your money. And talking about making sense of your money, today we're going to be talking about how, you can make investments or looking at how the naira and investing in Nigeria Stock Exchange could still make sense for you, even though we're in the second half of the year. We'll be also touching a bit on two articles on the naira from Bloomberg and Money Central. And our guest who will be breaking it all down for us today is Patrick Atuanya. He is the publisher of Money Central Media Limited. Good evening and welcome once again, Patrick. Good to have you
Oh,
as always.
yeah, good evening and happy new month, I guess, to all the all the listeners.
Well, in a sense,
I've
I
not
get
been here
what
for
you
a
mean.
while, so yeah,
I
yeah,
truly get what you mean.
yeah.
As always, Lagos, you know what to do. Share your thoughts on the topic of conversation and any insights that you have as well. Please feel free to share them. But let's even start with the Bloomberg article. What does that even mean for the Naira to decouple from oil? I saw that earlier on. I was trying to make sense of it. But hey, glad to have you here. And I know that this is your forte, so I shall let you play in it and explain to us in the easiest terms as possible. So please go ahead.
Okay, so Nigeria is a oil producing country, so
Sure.
and most of our export proceeds are from oil. Roughly 95%, right, of all the dollars that flows in from exports. The other sources of dollars, like remittances and non-oil exports, but 95% of all the major exports that we do comes from oil prices. So that tends to the level of the oil price tends to affect the currency because our exports, that is our dollar earnings, are so much tied to oil prices. So because if you export a lot of oil, or maybe if the oil price is high, then you earn a lot of dollars. And when you earn a lot of dollars, you're able to manage your currency better, especially if you don't want it to depreciate to a certain level. So if it's falling, the central bank usually comes in and sells a lot of dollars into the market, and then the naira currency appreciates. Right. So what the Bloomberg article is pretty much saying is that over the past 1 or 2 months, the naira
Mhm.
has actually appreciated while the oil price has gone down. So you would expect that as the oil price is going down,
Mhm.
the naira will be weakening, right? Because our currency is so much tied to to the oil price, and of course our dollar ability to earn dollars. And then if the oil price is going up, right,
Mhm.
which would lead to more dollar earnings for Nigeria, then the currency should appreciate. So but they've linked it to certain things, like lower imports. So
Right.
if you are importing less, there will be less need for you to, for the CBN to send dollars to importers, so it also helping our um, currency reserves, dollar reserves to go up a bit, and a few other factors, but the only caveat I'll say is 1 or 2 months does not make a trend, right? So we're still watching what's going to happen between now and the end of the year, but so far so good. So that's in the that's just what it means by decoupling. So something
Okay.
that used to trade hand in hand is no longer trading hand in hand for now.
For
That is
now.
the watching word. Yeah.
Okay. I like the fact that we're saying for now because you can't tell. You could just change tomorrow morning and like,
Yeah.
okay, you can hold that. You can hold that over my head, right? But
Yeah.
now, now where we are
Yeah.
is the naira actually appreciating due to the economic reforms despite this despite the lower oil prices? Because
Yeah.
I've been seeing that a bit. So could that be the reason
Yeah.
why this is happening?
Okay. So, like I said earlier, all things being equal, you would expect the naira to depreciate as oil prices are going down, right?
Right.
So, so what is happening means that there's something else going on. So some of what the analysts have said is that a big chunk of it is reform, right?
Mm,
So the reforms have led to so part of the reform was letting the naira depreciate to find its level, right? We used to the naira. Anybody that was here in 2023 that was paying attention, I'm sure Nigerians were paying attention. The naira, the naira we used to trade around 400, 450 to a dollar. And now it's around
right.
1,550. So that's a huge move over a 2-year period. So because of that move, it has enabled people that have money outside that want to invest in Nigeria have a fresh look at the country. That is, could be portfolio investors, like mostly portfolio investors, really. So
Right.
people bringing in money to invest in our stock markets, our bond markets, because they feel that if they had brought in their money at that 500, they won't get the
Right then.
bank. They won't get the bang for the buck. I mean, to break it down for the layman, if you had if you had your uncle or your brother or your girlfriend or your boyfriend in the US and
Mm-hmm.
he wants to send you $1,000, would you rather he sends you $1,000 and you change it at 500 naira per dollar, or you change it at 1,500 naira per dollar, right?
Mm,
So 500 naira per dollar, you're only getting 500,000 naira.
right.
1,500 per dollar, you're getting 1.5 million. So when you extrapolate that to why the currency is a little bit more attractive for foreign investors, they can see their dollars going further in the country, right?
Right.
When they change it, so it's more attractive, right? So that's one side of it. The other side of it is imports have also gone down a bit due largely to the Dangote refinery. This refinery is it's everywhere in Nigeria's lives, right? So we used to we used to spend a lot of money
Having to import
to import
food.
petroleum products, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes as much as uh, 10, $15 billion a year, right? Because we now produce a huge chunk of those petroleum products locally, and also the president has initiated this naira for crude system, whereby Dangote refinery supplied crude used
Mm,
to feed his refinery in naira. What that basically means is a huge chunk of dollar demand that used to a lot of the marketers used to import petroleum products is not really no longer there. So again, what happens, if there's not a lot of demand for foreign exchange to import products, it
mm,
helps with the value of the naira, right? There's not that much pressure on
on
it.
it.
So yeah, so some of the reforms um, have actually done well. Have actually helped the what's going on. The only
Mm.
caveat again I'll say is 2 months does not make a trend. Um, it doesn't.
Right. So we shouldn't get too excited
You
because
shouldn't get
certain
too
people in
excited.
certain
You
places
shouldn't
are
get too
like, no,
excited.
our money is beginning to have value right now. So we can,
Yeah,
as they say, do shakara.
yes. So the caveat I'll have is I think we need a little bit more sticky, sticky investments in the form of FDI, right? So when you look at all the flows of money coming to Nigeria, a lot
Mm,
of it is portfolio flows. And one thing about portfolio flows is that they can easily leave as easily as they come, right? Because all they need to do is sell
mm,
and they get their money out. But if you have
yeah.
FDI like building factories, providing jobs on the ground, shovel ready
Mm, yes,
projects,
yeah.
it's harder, it's more sticky, right? You're not going to dismantle your
Just up and
factory
leave.
and
Right.
leave. So we need a little bit more of those, but when a country that has gone through some of the issues Nigeria has gone through
Right.
has its reforms. The first type of money that comes in is the FPI's portfolio flows, and then the FDI will begin to come behind. So, but I think the government needs to do a little bit more in terms of ease of doing business, you
Okay.
know, so that some of those FDIs can flows can come in, and then we'll have a robust mix of portfolio and FDI flows, which will make things a lot much sustainable for the terms of the strength of the naira.
All right. That is good to know.
Mm.
All right, let's quickly get into now that we've touched on the Bloomberg article, we've gotten insight on that. Don't get too excited. Is what Patrick is saying.
Mm.
2 months is too early to be dancing. So, but
Yeah.
just keep your fingers crossed and let's see how things pan out eventually. Now let's move on over to your article. Well, that is the one in the Money Central. And when I saw the article, I saw and anyways, let me just get straight to it. What really are global depository notes? Because there's so
Okay,
much I
so
know about, but
all right, so this so it's mostly for a little bit more sophisticated investors, but
okay.
the outcome will definitely affect the man on the street, right? So they are basically they're like securities issued by global custodians like BNY Mellon that
Mm,
enable foreign investors to get access to domestic bonds, local currency bonds, and naira bonds issued
okay.
by the largely the federal government, right? Sovereign bonds, right? So it makes it easy. So instead of them directly dealing with Nigeria, right, with the local custodians in Nigeria to be able to buy those bonds, they can do their trade in New York, right, and it's easier for them to have access to buy Nigerian government debt or naira denominated debt. Why would they buy that? Well, it's a lot more juicy, right? Like we
Right.
government bonds are around 18%, 17, 18%, right?
Mm,
10-year treasuries, US 10-year treasuries are around 4.2%, so you can see the ability for
the
arbitrage.
margin.
Yeah. So
Right.
but what that does is it helps bring more dollars again into the Nigerian economy and also helps
Mm,
with the value of the naira. Yeah, so that's it. So if you know there are numerous funds, hundreds of thousands of funds across the world, New York, in Dubai, in London, in Japan, all the major global financial centers, and some of those fund managers a they have a part of their exposure that where they might call frontier markets, right, or emerging markets that they would like to invest in, and not all of them
right.
can come directly to Nigeria. But if they have such a GDY, right, Global Depository Note, right, that they can invest in, then it's an easier way for them to get access to the Nigeria's capital markets. Yeah.
Mm. So why is BNY Mellon offering sovereign debts of Nigeria against or via the GDNs rather?
Yeah.
How are we here? Like following your
Okay.
explanation,
Well,
I'm
so
wondering how we got
so
here.
yeah. So obviously there must be demand for Nigerian debt, right? Globally,
Right.
sovereign debt, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
because if there's no demand, there will be no supply. So, I think one reason will be that there's demand for that, right? I guess the reforms have made Nigeria a little bit more attractive. Secondly, BNY Mellon will probably also charge some fees, right? So they'll probably make some money from offering
Okay.
these global notes. Um, so I think that's basically it. Also, they might have customers that particularly requested for this
Double
security.
looked. They think,
Yeah,
okay.
so
This
so they might be trying to
mm,
fulfill some customer needs or customer demand. So that's
mm,
basically it. And again, the country is a little bit more attractive for investment.
right now.
Um, so that I think that's basically it. There should be demand for those notes. That's why
Mm.
the securities are being created, yeah, to fill that demand.
All right, Lagos. Let's take a quick breather. When we get back in, I want us to actually talk about the Nigerian Stock Exchange and all the policies and things that are sort of making Nigeria look so good in the eyes of investors right now because the things are coming in. Well, we'll talk about that and so much more on the other side. Lagos, don't go nowhere. Stay tuned to Smooth 98.1. I guess someone was truly trying to get your attention because it was ringing. It was ringing nonstop. I was like, okay, this person really needs to get your attention. By all means.
Well, hope they can send the questions to you guys, right, by email
Oh
and
yeah,
all that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so if there's anyone I can answer after the show, you can always forward it to my email,
I'll just
and then,
forward it. Yeah, not a problem. Right. All right, Lagos, it is 33 minutes going to 5. You tune in to Personal Finance here in Smooth 98.1. And as we've been doing, we're talking about Nigerian stock and the second half of 2025, what to look at and how things are panning out. Ooh, seems our market is looking juicier. Well, talking about this and giving us more insight as to how things are panning out is Patrick Atuanya. He is the publisher of MoneyCentral Media Ltd. And always a pleasure having him here, giving all
same
this.
here, same here. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into let's get into the stocks and why it is looking like Nigeria is such a beautiful place right now to have business going on. I and I'm still coming off of off of your article that you shared earlier on. And talking about this, right? Is it that the policy it really is policy uncertainty in the US causing more attention to be paid to emerging markets right now and focusing on countries such as like Nigeria?
Okay, so you can see everybody can see the sort of the chaos coming out of the American presidency, right? Some people say there's a grand plan, like that the Trump presidency knows what it's doing, But the point is, everybody's just trying to find a way to make money, no matter who is in the White House, right? Or
Right.
who is in the U.S. Senate, who is controlling the Senate or the House of Rep.
Right.
So there has been some talk,
Mm,
right, of more money trying to flow out of the American capital markets. We've not
mhm,
seen that materialize, right?
right.
We've not seen that materialize, but there's certainly some talk about that. I think for countries like Nigeria, what makes it attractive is the ability to earn higher returns, especially on fixed income securities, right? Compared to U.S. Treasuries.
Mm,
And is in finance is called a carry trade. So that is basically when you borrow money, in a currency that has a cheaper interest rate, and then invest in a currency that has more expensive interest rates, right? So, like I said before, 10-year U.S. Treasuries are around 4.2%. So basically, you could take
right.
$1 million, borrow $1 million at 4.2%, bring it to Nigeria, right? Invest it
That'll
at
double.
18%.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you pay your fees and the low taxes, you could be making like 15, 14, 15, 16% on that money, So it's a good trade for people that can actually put it on. So
Mm.
those are some of the reasons why Nigeria is being looked at. A big caveat to that is your currency has to be stable, right? Because
Okay.
if your currency, if within the period you put on that trade, maybe like a year, if the currency depreciates a lot, by the time you get your 18% and convert it back to dollars, you could
It
actually lose
wouldn't.
money. You could actually lose money on that trade. So again, the stable currency is also helping to make some of those trades attractive, make Nigeria more attractive to foreign, and also the free market FX, free FX market, whereby you can easily, there's no backlogs now to moving your money out of the country, right? The
Yes,
CBN,
that has also helped a
yeah,
great deal.
yeah, the CBN has pretty much solved that problem, so you can come in and leave anytime you want. And of course, you don't have to. Some of those bonds you don't have to hold to maturity. You can sell in the secondary market, and after 2, 3, 4 months, depending on how your position has moved, and then you make your money and go. So a lot of that is also helping with
Interplay.
the inflows, yeah, and making
Mm.
Nigeria attractive, yeah.
I'm just glad that we have something to offer, unlike before, where
Yeah,
everybody was just like, you know what, we need to get out whilst you can. But now we see some, businesses here and there, and that's actually positive at the end of the day.
yeah.
Now let's take a look at the stock exchange. I know that
Okay.
the Nigerian Stock Exchange is uh, looking at 18.5% to
Yeah.
date. Are there any opportunities for newcomers getting into the market?
Okay. So it is very, very interesting that the market has gone up for this year, right? It's done quite
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
So if you're not already in the market,
Mm.
it's a little bit expensive, right? Like a lot of the stocks have actually run up this period. But there are still opportunities. I
Right.
think you can invest in some of the sectors that are actually going to do well over the next 1 or 2 years, right? So you have the banking sector, the
Hmm.
telcos, telecommunications is another sector that is going to do well, largely because the everybody can see that, right? The tariffs have gone up, right? So
Indeed.
yeah,
And
so
you know that data is life, so.
yeah, and of course, like there's a more people are using data, right? There's a lot of people do on WhatsApp. They share memes,
Yeah.
they share skits, So those telecommunication companies are making a lot of money. Like your MTN, your Airtel, they are listed on the
Mhm.
stock exchange. The food sector is also big. We have
Mm.
a growing population, so that population needs to eat, right? And if people are going to drop a lot of things, they're not going to drop food, right? So if people can no longer buy cars, they can no
Ex-
longer buy new clothes every month,
ah,
right? They can no longer go to clubs
oh,
but they
one
still
bears
need
and
to,
the things.
yeah, but they still need to eat, right? And
Oh,
you
most
manage
definitely.
to eat. No, so the food sector is also growing quite well.
Okay.
So those
That
are some
is.
of the sectors that are the cement, that is the industrial
Mm.
goods sector, is also doing well, but they are doing well based off of price increases, right? So
Okay.
they're not seeing a lot of volume growth, but they are making a lot of their money by increasing prices. So of which a lot of Nigerians are not too happy about. And then another major sector on the stock market is the oil and gas sector. So I'm talking about the upstream. So you have, we're an oil producing country, and a lot of
Indeed.
Nigerian firms have actually taken over major oil fields that the IOCs sold. So you have firms like Seplat and Aradel that are listed on the stock market, and they are doing good. And a good thing about Seplat is that they actually pay dollar dividend to investors. So you can
Okay.
actually get your dividend in dollars. So those are so there are some good names that you can still
In
invest
there.
your money. The good thing about the stock market is it's one of the best ways over a long period of time, right? I'm not talking 100 years. I'm talking about 5 years, 10 years period to actually
Right.
grow your wealth and make steady income through dividend for your family, your portfolio, your kids, you name
Mm.
it.
Hmm. All right. That is something to look forward to. And whilst we're talking about that, there's the issue with the recapitalization drive that's been happening with the banks. So it makes me want to wonder, are banking stocks attractive? Is that where we should also be looking at?
Okay. Yes. So the thing about banks is everybody is a sector that everybody is familiar with, right?
Mhm.
So most Nigerians have bank accounts. So you
True.
might be, you'll be using Access, you may using Zenith, you're using GT, you may using some of the other major banks, UBA, First Bank. So you have an idea of the business, right?
Hmm.
That's a positive for the banks. That brand recognition, brand name recognition, right?
True.
Then when it comes to the individual bank stocks, you also have the big banks and you have the medium sized banks called the tier two banks. Okay.
Mm.
Then the CBN has talked about recapitalization. So the CBN has told them to up their capital to 500 to raise about 500 billion naira in capital.
Mm.
And a lot of them have begun to do this. The latest was GT Bank that was able to raise $100 million on the London Stock Exchange. So in the banking sector, the big banks are going to do well in this environment of larger capital because the more capital you hold, the more you can fund big ticket lending. You can do a lot of things. You can do aggressive marketing to take more share from some of the smaller banks. You can open more branches. You just have a lot more muscle. So the big banks will do better in this environment. And
Hmm.
in those big banks, the best in class is GT Bank, right? Sorry, if you're not banking with GT, sorry about that. But when it comes to the stock market,
Right.
it's one of the best in class banks in terms of corporate governance, in terms of where they are trading, right? They just hit another all-time high today. I think they are up to 88 naira per share. This was a stock that was trading 3 years ago. GT was trading around 21 naira. So you can do the math and know how much you would have
Honestly,
made.
do the math and see how it
how
is
much,
right
how
now.
much you would have made over that time period. And it
Hmm.
will continue to go up. A report just came out from, I believe, Cardinal Stone
Okay.
last week that gave a 98 naira target for GT Bank. And they said it's directly linked to their listing in London, whereby because of that listing, they will
Oh,
have
okay.
more institutional investors will be buying into GT stock, and
Awesome stuff.
it will also help them have a higher valuation, right? Comparable valuation to their emerging market peers. So what that means is that their valuation will be closer to frontier markets, right?
Mm.
Or banks in other frontier markets, and because of that, they will have a higher valuation and a higher stock price. And
Okay.
GT paid 8 naira per share dividend last year.
Last year,
Yeah.
well, I
So
knew some people who
yeah,
participated
yeah.
in that and got something great from
Yeah,
that. So
so
yeah.
so they've been consistent in dividend payment, but also some
Right.
of the other big banks will also do well. Zenith Bank
Okay.
is another one that will do well. UBA, UBA, what UBA has going for it is that it's diversified across Africa, right? So they have up to
Right.
12, 13 branches or more in the rest of Africa. And right now, they actually do about 50% of their business in the rest of Africa. So it's a way to
Expand so.
insulate them or give them more ability to make money, and repatriate some of those funds to Nigeria. So the big banks will do well. All of them will
Mm,
do well. The only caveat is because of the CBN came out recently with a circular that said if you have forbearance loans as a bank, you can't
right.
pay dividends. You have to write off those loans completely before you can
First,
pay
yeah.
before
Mm,
you can pay dividends. So what that is going to do is that for those banks, funny enough, GT and Stanbic were the only banks that did not have any forbearance loans, right? That goes back to what I was saying about corporate governance. So they already cleared that as a last year. So, but the rest of the banks, the Zenith, the Access, they came out and said that the Fidelity, the FCMB, that they will clear most of those loans by the second
as that
quarter,
lap.
which ended in June, right? Second quarter ended
Right.
in June. So, but what that might do is that because they will rush to clear up their books, they might take they might have lower profits for the second quarter,
Mm,
right? So we are watching for their results to start coming out in roughly maybe by August, right? And we'll see
okay.
how they've been able to clear up their books. But I think it's a temporary issue. So if you see some of the bad results, or if there are bad
Don't
results,
don't they- well.
is a one-time thing. I think
Mm,
the stocks have actually adjusted to that, and
okay.
once the news comes out, I think the bank stocks will continue to do well.
All right.
Uh,
Well, it is always a pleasure having you. And trust me, when I say that you help to break it down to the barest minimum so
yeah.
anyone can understand, it is really a pleasure. But that's the much we can take today
Are
on
we
personal.
done?
Oh, yes.
Oh no. Okay, can I give a last word to the
Okay. All right. Yes.
okay, so the
The mini
listeners,
owners. Yes, please.
yeah, you need to take control of your finances, right? If you
Right.
don't have a pension fund, go and open up a pension fund, right?
Okay.
There's micro pension. Why is
Mm,
that necessary? Because these pension funds also invest in the stock market, right? So you can indirectly have access to the stock market through your pension funds, and the Pencom has made it easy, right? You can go into any there's Leadway, there's Access, there's Stanbic, they're all pension PFAs, right? Pension fund
mm,
administrators, and as an informal worker, a lot of Nigerians are informal workers, or they own their
true.
own businesses, one man business. Just walk in there, tell them you want to open a micro pensions, and they'll give you the form, you
Just add
fill
it
it.
up for you.
Yeah, and you can put money there at your will as you want. If you want to put it every month, if you want to put every other month, you want to put it once a year. But your money will be growing as the stock market is going up. The money will be
The
going up
money's
for you
also
too.
growing as well.
And they invest in stocks, they invest in bonds too. So
All
that's
right.
another indirect way to have access to the stock market. I know you can also go to your a stockbroker, set up a stockbroking account. But I guess we can talk about that another day because it has a little bit more.
Yeah.
You have to have more knowledge, right, to trade on your
It
own.
is important to get the right knowledge, and that
Yeah,
is where you come in.
yeah.
So, how can Lagos reach out to you for those who still want more insight? What's the social media handle that they can reach out to you and get all that
Okay.
insight from you
All right.
from?
So you can send email at moneycentral50@gmail.com, or you can reach us at moneycentral.com.ng. Send, any story you read, you can make a comment and we'll get back to you, because to make a comment, you have to put up your email. So we can send you an email directly, or
Perfect.
you can reply you at the body. You can at Money Central 4, that's our Twitter account, and at Money Central, that's our Facebook account. So
All
any
right.
of those means you can reach us, and they can also reach us through you. They can send emails
Right.
to you and you can send to me. That's fine.